So this one is very disturbing for me. When I found out this data, I didn't realize how small it is, and I don't know how much of an increase it has in the past couple years. But what I read, based off your presentation that you provided, said in 2017, 4.5% of U.S. citizens self-identify as LGBTQ plus, less than 5%. Furthermore, it is estimated that transgender individuals are more likely to enlist than those who identify as cisgender. With such a small percentage, is there any second or third order effects that people have by coming out or identifying themselves as part of this community? I would assume that there's a lot of people that may identify themselves part of the community, but just have not spoken it, openly, and that's probably why
Right,
the
of
percentage
course.
is so low.
Very much. This is definitely just people who self-identify, people who are very open. So I feel like it might possibly, there could be more people who identify as LGBT, especially I would include the people who are even questioning their gender identity or sexuality. I very much believe, and there has been studies that it is a spectrum, and it's okay to question whether or not you are gender non-conforming, because gender is very much a cultural construct. Throughout history, there has been different kinds of genders. There's third genders, fourth genders. There's what is called two-spirit in the Native American culture. Transgender individuals in the Polynesian culture were thought to be connected to the spirit, the divine. They were like shamans and they were revered. So I think it's important to realize that gender is different depending on culture, depending on time period, depending on where you live. For an example, in Korea, it is very natural for men to wear foundation to cover up the blemishes on their face, whereas in the United States, that is seen as a little bit more feminine. So I think that is very important to mention with the LGBT community, and with seeing such a low percentage, there actually could be a lot more. It's absolutely natural. And I don't want anyone to feel upset or disturbed if they think they are questioning who they are, especially the people who grew up in those cultures where it was unacceptable to be anything other than the role you were born into. So I did want to make the comment on what cisgender was for anybody who doesn't know. Cisgender means that you were born into the biological sex that you identify as your gender. So anyone who is born biologically male and identifies as male, that is what cisgender is. As far as second and third order effects, like I mentioned before, I do not believe I have experienced anything as far as career progression and promoting in any kind of opportunities. I know for me, more or less, it has kind of pushed me into an ambassador role because I was raised in a diverse community with an open-minded family, and I've experienced support from my leadership and the people around me. I have been given the tools to be comfortable enough to start speaking on behalf of other people who might be afraid to speak for themselves. In itself, that can be a little bit burdensome, but that is the role I have currently found myself, especially with my LGBTQ organization on base. I definitely think it is okay not to come out, and you definitely, if you know someone who is uncomfortable, you shouldn't encourage them to come out. Please, nobody out anyone who isn't ready. That includes PCSs. If they're out at one base, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be comfortable coming out at the next base in a new community. It is a huge thing. There's always the fear that you are going to be looked differently. You are going to lose those opportunities. So that is definitely something I know affects a lot of people. And I would say, as far as hiding who you are, it's definitely up to the person. There is a Colonel Sokovsky, I believe is how you pronounce it. She is retired Army. She was actually the very first female to be in an infantry unit in the Army. She was reserved for a while. She is transgender, the highest ranking transgender individual currently. She made a comment that she was in the closet while she was in the military and transitioned after she got out. That she was more open about who she was. She believes she would have been a better leader. That's definitely the thing that I stand in. I hold conversations to be open and honest with people and being able to help educate For people who don't believe that they're going to be safe in any kind of community, who are not comfortable with the people around them, I really think it's a personal choice. It's up to them. And I definitely lean on it's for me. It feels better to be open